we played the track, we ran it back, and then I played it a little bit again, gave some thoughts, and now we're here.
Yeah.
I
It's a
think
good
one of
day.
the
And I'm not putting this on you, Anthony,
Yeah.
because I know you're better than me. But I am an OG Drake hater. I'm the anti-academics. I'm an actual academic.
Yeah, no,
And
you've definitely been hating him longer than me.
yes, yes. And I, you
Yeah.
know, I hit my power for a while because I didn't like the idea of being known as a Drake hater. I had other shit to say and do. But like it's clearly my moment at the moment.
Yeah, it's
So
your time to shine.
I might as well let it be free. I might as well let it go.
You know, I feel like I mean I'm sure you've like and you know, no disrespect to the guy. I love this man with all my heart. But I just find it very funny that you know, in the wider world of YouTube music commentary, when we needed him most, Mike Seatown decided to retire from Dead End Hip Hop. Like, you know, he's an OG Drake hater too, you know,
Yeah.
but not entirely. He sort of gets, you know, I think he got him kind of early on.
No,
But
I did too. I was
yeah.
just saying, like, so far gone era, on into you know, now that was that was probably it for me. I didn't like the first record too tough. Take Care is like I understand that to be an amazing R&B, hip hop like moment. I'm not a huge R&B fan. And then after that is my favorite, which is I always forget the name. Never Was the Same. Is that Blue Hair, Blue Clouds
Yeah.
thing? So you know that's my favorite. I think that's everybody's that has good taste favorite. That's not like an
It's most
edgelord.
people's favorite.
Yeah,
My favorite is If You're Reading This Is Too Late. It's
yeah,
my
that was what I
favorite.
was.
Which
I was pretty
ironically
much.
it's kind of tough Drake. It's kind of tough Drake. I do kind of like the tough Drake mixtape.
Yeah, that was it for me. That was when I started being loud and proud with my Drake hate. I was like, all right, he's successful enough. I can
For
hate
me,
him openly.
that was a rare instance of Drake enjoyment. Like up until that point, most people were sort of, yeah, I had been classified as a Drake hater pretty early on. You know, Take Care I was underwhelmed by. I didn't even really do a formal review of his first album, I don't think. I think I gave Nothing Was the
Didn't
Same a
miss
5.
anything.
A lot of his albums kind of range from like 5 and below, 6 and below. You know, all and honestly, Nevermind has got to be the worst.
As the certified not music listener in this group, I always liked Drake in the sense that, you know, he just makes top 40
and that is
hits.
probably why we hated him.
Yeah, exactly. Like for me, I was like, and still am to this day, I'll just be like, yeah, it's Drake. Cool. Like I have no issue whatsoever. I just always personally did not like his behavior in general. I always thought he was corny, but I undeniably was like, yeah, no, he makes top 40 hits. It's great.
You can't take that away from him. Like if Going Home comes on, I'm not turning it off. If fucking I promise you I like more of his songs than I'm letting go on in the moment. I just can't remember yet. Help me out, Anthony. He has good songs.
That's actually a song I will skip. If I hear and not that I hear it played a lot, but if I hear Hotline Bling, I'm going through that. But if I hear Energy, got a lot of energy, I'm spinning that. Like I'm spinning energy. No, I don't cringe. Don't cringe it. Don't you cringe at me. Don't you cringe at me.
Isn't that from If You're Reading This Is Too Late?
Yeah. That's also
yeah.
from that.
That was
also, you know, also headlines. You're the best. Also great early Drake hits.
Yes.
Also really great Drake
Energy
hits.
and Started From the Bottom is when I planted my flag. When Drake made Started From the Bottom,
that's when a lot of people did. That's when I think a lot of people started to be like, this guy. It started to go beyond, because most Drake hate up until that point was like, Drake's the type of dude to this or that. You know, here's a picture. Here's a picture
officially, of him. This officially feels like a eulogy. I feel like we are eulogizing the death of an artist.
I'm dressed for it.
This is crazy.
So I disagree though. I like
wait. Let me just finish that thought. I feel like most Drake hate up until that point was mostly in that range, but like when he started with the Started From the Bottom thing, that's when, in addition to that, there started to grow this narrative of like, he's not portraying himself accurately. Like he's sort of feeding us a narrative here that's obviously like not true.
Right.
And that's all I was going to say.
Yeah, that's completely true. I want to elaborate on that, but I also don't want to forget what I was about to say because I think it's actually a more interesting tangent, which is I don't think this is it for Drake. I think if this L continues to get larger, it will not matter to his core fan base. Drake has all but red pilled himself in the last like 4 or 5 years. Like he is one step away from that, in my opinion. And that type of fan base is immune to taking L's. Like they're
Oh
immune
yeah,
to it.
Nicki
Like
Minaj.
I just finished. Woo, I don't agree with that.
Wait, well, really?
No. I'm just not doing that publicly.
Sorry. Okay, my bad. You're
That is Hassan
you're on the
Piker.
broadcast of a certified enemy of the barbs. I can't go to a Sephora ever for the rest of my life. I'm barred. They will kill me.
Shit. Like before I got on, like I'm walking in the house and like I was just scrolling Twitter to see what people are saying because I didn't get a chance to hear it immediately because I was fucking eating. I was like, it was dinner date night, and like Fantano texts me. I'm like, I'm eating. Holy shit! And I just wanted to go to the bathroom. Like I'm just gonna go to the bathroom and listen. Instead, I just put the phone in my fucking ear.
You were one of the first people I texted. You were one of the first people I sent a text to.
And so, but I watched Academics, and Academics is not listening to the song, not reacting to the song. He's strategizing for Drake with this
Yes.
chat. He's literally strategizing like, what could Drake do?
What's fun? Do you remember this? Do you remember? And I don't know how long you've like been aware of and have been watching Academics.
I am very new to Academics. Thank God.
Me and him, have had exchanges over the years. And one thing that I used to remember about him is very early on, like he was a Drake fan, and very loudly and proudly a Drake fan, which I didn't think anything of. Like if he likes the guy's music, he likes the guy's music.
It's probably endearing at the time.
Well, the thing is, like, there was a period of time, and I don't know when things shifted, where Drake actually like really kind of kept him at a distance. And if he turned up in like his comments on live or whatever, he'd like chide him a little bit and just kind of be like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, get out of here. So like, go away. But then there became this point where he like openly embraced him and he sort of like become his little messenger boy, and is like, oh, tell everyone I'm dropping. Get people hyped up. Make sure people are excited for this or that. And it's like, I wonder when that kind of shifted, when Drake realized like, I need to sort of like get, these terminally online streamer guys who are basically going to be loyal to me for clout reasons. I need to just basically embrace them and kind of like, use them as kind of a pipeline for positive sentiment toward me.
It's probably after you're reading, because after you're reading this is too late. Drake stops being a musician and an artist, in my opinion. He still makes music. He still makes good stuff, but he becomes this really almost really very interesting kind of curator of tastes. I was saying this song when I got here, like if you accuse Drake of being like a wave hopper, that's a little unfair because he's riding the wave in. Like somehow he knows City Girls are about to blow up. Somehow he knows the Migos are about to blow up. Somehow he knows UK drill is about to blow up. You know what I'm saying? Like he just is there for it. And then once it happens, he's already there. It happened with him, And so like I think because that starts, that starts kind of at the same time as like of the very weird culture wars era of the internet and alt-right and shit is probably where, and then like this exploitative shit that Academics did in Chicago. So he probably saw something that told him that Academics was going to have a large platform full of rubes that are just clout demons that will be useful to have to be bots online and on Twitter for his whatever narrative he wants to spin, to constantly give him the benefit of the doubt and to shout down like obvious L's and to say the guy you argue with last night, I think I can't remember his name.
Los Pollos.
Yes. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I didn't watch
Mr. Drake and Drive himself.
Yeah. I've literally not been able to get through like more than 5 minutes of any of those videos.
Yeah, he's a special guy.
Take it. But yeah, so I think that's when the shift happens, when Drake realized there was value to extract. Which is why I'm still like, I'm kind of counting Drake out now. I had it in my mind until last night that Drake was going to win this in the court of public opinion. I didn't know how. I didn't think it would be like a valid win, but I had no doubt in my mind that the court of public opinion would view Drake as the winner just because that's just how these things work, and that's how good Drake is at manufacturing cultural narratives. Now, I don't see how it could be the opposite. It couldn't be the opposite, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, the timing, in my opinion, the timing, the delivery mechanism, the fact that he called his shot ahead of time with not one but two diss tracks, and then basically even the expansion of the Maybach gloves all the way to the original like photo, which I feel like is going to expand even further. I don't know what the hell else is going to happen in the album cover. Like the next disc is going to have an even larger cover, I feel like, and then it's going to be, I don't know what the fuck they're going to show, but all of that is very calculated. And he even said that Drake was very predictable ahead of time. So, I mean, it makes you wonder
ruthless. How long I did a community post, and I was like, I kind of can't look at Kendrick the same anymore, because this is like anime level villain diabolicalness in terms of like, how long has he had this shit on Drake? And he didn't get those. He didn't take that picture in the last 2 weeks.
It had the Drake writers.
Like he could.
Yeah. It had the Drake writers literally doing Drake-anon. Like they're doing their own version of QAnon, but for Drake, like, oh, there's actually a secret bait, actually. And like that secret bait is the one who told Kenny to call him a pedophile. Like, yeah. And you know, that he has a secret daughter or something. You know, which is crazy.
I'm going to, play a little devil's advocate with the point that you were making earlier in terms of like whether or not Drake is done as a result of all of this. And I feel like Kendrick isn't just attacking him, especially on this new track, in a way that just kind of affects him personally. As he's been going deeper into this, he's been sort of like expanding his focus and sort of making this not just about how Drake is a morally reprehensible person in his own mind. Like he's been using this material to warn people to stay away from him, either because he's just a bad look, he's a danger to minors, or because he's a culture vulture. And I feel like he really kind of rode on that point harder on this track than he has on anyone so far. And I think the reason for that is because this is the catchiest of all the tracks so far. He wants people to be dancing and repeating this track over and over and over and getting that message buried into their heads on this track. And look, I mean, I'll forever never be surprised when it comes to the internet, especially Drake fans, the internet's collective ability to remember shit. Like, shit will happen and then all of a sudden it's in the fucking memory hole and nobody remembers. But Kendrick was mentioning artists by name, one after another, that he personally sees like that Drake got sauce from, and the next artist, be it one of those he mentioned, or especially if it's one from Atlanta, or another one in the future that decides to do the same thing that actually needs the approval of the hip hop community in the way that Drake doesn't. Right. In the way that Drake doesn't, because Drake can do whatever he wants without needing to appeal to the hip hop community necessarily. But if artists are crossing over to meet with him and it ends up being a bad look for them afterwards, that could, and look, there's a number of different ways that Drake appeals to people, but that could at least like kneecap him in one way, because I think Kendrick does make an accurate assessment that like part of Drake's lifeblood is his ability to glom on other artists into certain trends. And if through tracks like this and maybe even further tracks into the future, if he affects Drake's ability to continue doing that because he sort of robs him of that, because maybe there are less artists who are willing to collaborate, maybe there are less producers who are willing to collaborate because they're afraid of like being associated with him, at least for a time, because it's kind of embarrassing, and Drake can't keep his momentum up on the next record or the record after that or whatever, he could do some long-term damage. It could do some long-term damage.
He's attacking not just his character, but his clout. And Drake's clout has been a key ingredient since nothing was the same as such a cryptic name for an album.
And as he said on, a couple of bars as well, that clout extends outside of music too. He's literally warning LeBron by name Like,
Right.
stay away. Keep the children away.
Keep the children
It's
away.
like, he's like trying to cut off his ability to get eyes and get access to people on all fronts, not even just in music.
Next time he goes to insert team game here and wears their jersey, it's not going to be this type of it's not going to be like the same
celebration.
It's going to be like oh, there he is. Yeah, that's so that, and I think we do have synergy there, because I'm just more, I just have so little hope for how the internet responds and the internet's memory. And I know Drake has an army of literal bots, like legit been exposed, mechanical machine learning entities on Twitter, and then like human versions of the same thing.
Right.
And also, like, the thing that I've always been fair with Drake is that he is super talented when he wants to be. And that is one question I asked you, Anthony, because like it hit me. Somebody said it hit me. He did 3 albums last year, and you don't remember hardly any of them. And that's like,
Because
go
I
ahead.
think it's because of his gambling addiction. I have been a
I
long
didn't even know
time.
about that.
I have been a long time because he's on stake, right? And
He's
those
on-
guys
he's-
fucking
he
hate
has a-
me.
He has a sponsorship with them.
Yeah. So I've been paying attention to the moves that Drake has been making for some time now, and have talked about this extensively. That he got a stake partnership, like a pretty sizable partnership with an online crypto casino. Famously, it used to be very poppin' on this platform on Twitch, and then some people petitioned and advocated to the harms, like talked about the harms that it represents for children, because it's like unrestricted, unregulated crypto gambling. And then because of the actions of some people, I will not mention who those people are, it got kicked off of Twitch, only for them to create Kick, which I'm sure you've heard of, only being mentioned in the worst ways possible online. They created their own website, basically. Drake streams on it. And for some time now, I've always said, like, he's pumping out albums like he has gambling debt. Like, he's doing, have you heard of like Bruno Mars apparently like has a massive problem and like has to perform at MGM like almost every night. And he's like still, even with the millions of dollars that he's getting, he's just like still not able to keep up with his addiction. I feel like Drake is in a similar boat.
I would add to that, and again, I can't speak to any gambling Drake is doing, but like, I mean, I see a bit of a broader, just music-based trend here as well, because the shots that him and Kendrick were kind of throwing at each other back and forth caused me to go back and look at like some of the public postings that there have been for Drake's album deals and his most recent ones, and the way that they're set up with like we're talking like multi-$100 million guarantees for like a certain number of albums, like guaranteed. Like, just incentive wise, there's no real like what I want to say would be like a quality barrier or an expectation of reaching a certain level of quality or accessibility in order to get that money when you hand in the record. Like, that's set up in such a way where you can hand in fucking anything. You can hand in a playlist and you
Right.
get that money. You could hand in a fucking album where you're doing nothing but like just vocally riffing with auto-tune over dance beats for 10, 12, 13 tracks and not even bother to write fucking lyrics for the record, and you get that money. Like that's not set up for artistic quality. That's just basically a money printing machine. You hand in a shit mediocre album and you get the cash. Like that's going to create a wildly inconsistent discography where you're not really putting in the effort behind a record that you might if you knew, like, man, this album's going to make or break me. Like the amount of money he's going to make off those albums.
He's going to give us a dark fantasy now.
Right. Like,
He's gonna
and
give us a dark fantasy.
that's the thing. Like Kanye's fucking reputation was on the fucking skids after 808s and Heartbreak. Like, as much as people love that record, and it's obviously gained a lot of critical acclaim now, but especially because Drake loves that album, and that record's influence is still in his music today. Like, Kanye was on the fucking skids after that record. Like, he had a make or break moment, and that album came out of him as a result. And Drake is just at this point where he's just too big to fail. And again, the record company is just printing him money every single time he hands in a project, regardless of quality. And yeah, it's like maybe if that combines with some kind of gambling issue and he needs the money sooner rather than later, he's going to just hand in whatever, you know? So yeah, I think when you actually look at the guy's deal, and a lot of artists' deals are kind of set up this way these days, especially if labels think that they can kind of like pull a lot of money out of their pocket long term. However, a lot of these deals, these multi-record deals, guys like NBA YoungBoy have been kind of like muscled into these agreements where they can, it's for a certain amount of albums, but you can only put out so many albums over a certain amount of time, but you got to keep the hype up. So you end up putting out all these mixtapes on the side, and you got to be prolific as possible, and you're on a fucking treadmill to keep up. Like most of these deals are not as lucrative as the one Drake's been handed. The one Drake has been handed is obviously not going to incentivize him to put out records that are going to last long and that people are going to keep spinning into the future. It just takes up more time. It takes up more resources. And frankly, considering the way things are currently working with Drake and streaming and so on and so forth, it may just be in his best interest that when he comes out with that record every year and a half, every 2 years, that people have mostly forgot the last one so that they're ready to just embrace the new one, So yeah, I think financially he's just pretty much set up to not be making his best work at this point.
It's almost like when you think about the way we think about Drake's albums, I don't think I wouldn't look them up. So the last 4 albums, we got Scorpion in 2018, Certified Lover Boy, Honestly Nevermind, For All the Dogs, and in between that, you got I think at least one Future collaborative album and a 21 Savage
you
joint.
The 21 Savage collab.
Yeah.
21 Savage collab. No, so where's the one with Future? What is that one? I don't see that.
What a Time to Be Alive was a little earlier than that.
Was it? Oh yeah, it's 2015. Why do I think that was anyway? But like those albums I just named, that's a steady decline. A precipitous steady decline, even by like normal, like normie Drake fan, not his hardcore stans, but like people that like Drake will probably tell you after Views there's a clear decline in quality, right? And nobody he doesn't kind of get stuck with that narrative versus you look at a Kendrick and Mr. Morale. I know me and you both love that one. There's a lot of people that don't like it as much. I get why, but like that's looked at as this like huge like blemish on his record because he's only put out major like purposeful projects. At least up until now, because I can't wait to see what happens next.
A mid album from Kendrick or an album that Kendrick drops that not everybody is behind seems like a little like almost like a bigger L than it actually is, because you're so used to the high quality level that he drops every time. And I agree with you. I think Mr. Morale is great. I just don't think like the way that record is set up, it's obviously not made to appeal super wide commercially in the way that Damn was. And Damn is far from my favorite Kendrick project. It might actually be my least favorite, but that's just my personal preference. I still recognize that album serves a certain purpose in his catalog, and it functions, obviously it's one of his most major commercial successes for a reason.
I love Damn. I don't know if it makes sense for me to say I have a least favorite Kendrick album outside of Section 80, which is like, that's like he even calls it himself a mixtape.
Thank you, Sean the Black, for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother.
Fucking come on, it's getting late. I'm about to get off with you guys because I'm at the point where I can't remember shit. Untitled Unmastered.
Yeah. No, I love that one too. But it's funny what you say about Section 80, because like when a lot of people were talking about like, whether or not Kendrick is as good a rapper as Drake, when, like that came out and this whole debate sort of erupted, I was like, did people not remember like XXL Freshman like Cypher Kendrick? Do people not remember Rigor Mortis Kendrick? Like he was coming out of the gate rapping like he's on fucking fire, like it was life or death.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting, like, to switch out from clowning Drake for a second and eulogizing him. This is a interesting moment for Kendrick. Because nobody's ever done anything like this. And I I thought that this is a possible outcome. I guess I'd maybe underplayed it because I wouldn't have this is what I would have wanted. Maybe not as much last night's project song. I don't know if I really wanted that, but like him kind of like really like dominating Drake and like doing it through the traditional like planes of hip hop and hip hop like value systems and standards. But if you go back to Kendrick, I remember that double XL freestyle. And I didn't know who he was. I don't remember who else was on that with him, but I remember it getting to
you know
him.
who else was on it with him?
Who?
Kendrick. I don't know if I remember all of them. Kendrick, fucking Yellow Wolf. Yellow Wolf was on there. Fucking Lil B.
Oh
Lil B was
wow.
on there. And you know what was actually kind of legendary about that freestyle is Lil B actually kind of tried to the point where there was even a shot of there's a classic shot of Kendrick in that cipher where even he's like I've you could tell he heard Little B before, and when he actually started fucking spitting, he was like kind of surprised that like Lil B was like holding his own in the cipher. It's a hilarious fucking clip.
But it's so clear from that cipher, and this is a theme throughout Kendrick's career, and he wanted to make sure there was no question he was better than everybody else there. Like
Right.
he wanted it to be blatantly obvious that no one else was competing with him in this rap thing when he got his turn on the cipher. And I remember thinking that. I was like, this dude's way better than any motherfucker I've ever heard on these ciphers. And then, you know, he starts his career with a bang, then another bang.
And
then you
Sci-Hi the Prince was on that too. Shout out to him.
Oh wow, yeah. We'll come back to that. Well, we're not. I'm about to get off this motherfucker.
Sorry,
No, keep going. I gotta pee real quick. I'll be back in a second.
Yeah, keep going.
Hurry up, because I was up till fucking 3 last night, and I don't know how y'all do it.
I was until that time too.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. But and then you fast forward to Control, right? So he releases 2 critically acclaimed albums. He takes the crown. It's, you know, but at that time, my argument from my video was that like the crown, he has to like share it. He's like forced to share the crown with Drake. And so Control happens. And this is why initially I didn't think much of this when Like That happened. I was like, this was cute, but he's done this before. He wants people to know he's the best. He wants to remind people. He pops up every 6 months on a Baby Keem song or a Taylor Swift song, you know. And like, yeah, that's Kendrick in a nutshell. And so like when he did that on Control, and like it's not a diss track, it was a challenge that people like came like, you know, it's like, okay, you got a couple, I think you got Big Crit, Lupe, probably some other people who I can't remember. Those are my favorite artists from the
He mentioned Mac Miller in there too. I think he mentioned ASAP as well.
Yeah, but I think Crit, did Mac Miller respond?
Big Sean gets mentioned too.
Yeah, and so like that is, but I bring Control up because Control is like the same ethos. I don't want anybody to when I'm done being in the spotlight. Kendrick Lamar says, when I'm done being in the spotlight, I don't want there to be any debate on who was the top rapper of my era. Right. And up until last night, he had not really accomplished that. He accomplished that within the realm of like the culture. Nobody that's a true you go. I don't want to say true hip hop fan because I don't really believe in that term. But like nobody who is in any way connected to a tastemaker or a student or a deep in the culture of hip hop would ever put Drake over Kendrick. But as a whole, this is debatable because Drake is a bigger star and has been a bigger star. So this Machiavellian ruse that he did on Like That has brought us to this moment where he has been able to, as you just pointed out, in numerous ways. That's another thing. We have we have Like That, which is a banger. We get to Euphoria, which is Kendrick in his truest Kendrick bag. Multiple beat switches, 7 different flows, 5 different voices. We get 616, which is another version of Kendrick's bag. Then we get him showing why he's the best writer in the history of hip hop, where he gives us this like horrifying, haunting song that made everybody like the fucking montages of everybody reacting to hearing that song are gonna be with us forever. They're gonna be with us forever. And then he wake up. Then tonight he gives us a club banger. So it's like, no, do not mistake me for anyone else when I'm done, when I'm gone. That is what this is about from a Kendrick perspective. I fucking love it. It makes me happy. And
Yeah, I mean, in that respect, in that sense, like Drake, you know, while obviously Kendrick has personal issues with him, simultaneously, and this is sort of like, you know, I think also pretty sad and unfortunate for him. He's almost just kind of filling a void and just serving a purpose. Like you know, there's a possibility that Kendrick would have acted this way regardless of who that number one commercial crossover guy was, and was just like, I'm going to basically, you know, build a blueprint. I'm going to build a bomb to destroy this guy to prove that I'm actually number one, regardless of what the numbers say, you know?
Yeah. And it just so happened to be Aubrey Drake Graham. I'm gonna pop out, y'all.
He's a perfect villain though, because he's like in many ways the moral opposite, in at least the way that like Kendrick Lamar carries himself, and the way that the way he talks about issues. He is like the perfect villain to do it. And I think that he's in a little bit in a way utilizing the hype around Drake as well as the hatred that he has cultivated over the course of his many years in the industry.
He's sending a message to the part of hip hop that Drake brought with him. You know what I'm saying? Like that. It's. I don't even know if it's a middle finger as much as it is a, like, we're setting a new standard. Feel free to like get engaged with it, or like, we don't care. Your opinions are no longer valid. You all had a lot of sway for the last 15 years in what hip hop was and meant. And that time is up as I parade the carcass of your avatar across the internet with five plus five more songs of Drake hate.
Right.
This is the new Kendrick album. It's 15 songs of why Drake sucks. I'm out of here, guys.
All right, thank you, FD, so much for coming on. FD Signifier, everybody in the chat. We'll spam his link.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Dude, listen, as a non-music listener, I had to have somebody who actually listens to music come in, you know, and educate the youth,
right,
on what the fuck's going on, because I'm over here. I am only invested in the drama. Like I am not as invested in the music part of this entire process.
Honestly, you're not even alone in that. So, you know, like, is there anything still at this point that you're like curious about, or are you sort of like wondering about this whole situation that you feel like
on the drama front? Have you seen like seen the
drama front, but like, you know, what's the vibe? Why is this happening? Like, you know, or anything. I guess, is there anything that you feel like you're still kind of like wondering about at this point vis-a-vis this whole you know, this whole back and forth?
I wonder how Drake is going to respond to this, if he responds to it at all. I feel like the most Drake thing to do here would be just like try to sue him for libel or something.
Right. You know, the thing is, like, up until this point, Drake has been just a master of controlling the narrative, because historically he's just very good at kind of following trends. He and his team are very online. As I was kind of saying earlier, he's been great about sort of like, you know, keeping guys like DJ Academics like very close to him, so that he can, you know, essentially, you know, use him to sort of like, you know, soften criticism against him. And, you know, he just plays social media channels very well. But I feel like through this, Kendrick out-Draked Drake. He has not allowed him to control the narrative for like even a second since he released Euphoria. Like, since he released Euphoria, the track has gone crazy. The fact that it's not a super accessible track worked almost in his favor, because that caused people to listen to the song over and over and over and over, and that created more discussion around the track. You know, the thing is, while Drake's tracks are catchy and they're very direct and they're very to the point, and I think Push Ups was a decent response given that he had a lot of people to respond to, like, people weren't replaying that track in the way that provably they were playing Euphoria, given that it's now currently the #1 hip hop song as far as streams go of the year.
Yeah.
and we're not even at the halfway point of the year yet.
And I think that's a way of out-draking Drake in a way that actually matters, because like he always has. What does he have?
Really out-draked him was that the moment that he went to take the narrative back, he just dropped the other track.
Yeah,
he dropped the other track. So he divided focus,
and he's outstreaming him, which I think is like the biggest fuck you, because
biggest embarrassment. Is
Yeah.
the biggest fucking embarrassment.
Because he has nothing. If he doesn't have the money, and he doesn't have, which obviously doesn't matter all that much. Like, it will matter if he's like talking to Rick Ross, but I don't think it matters as much when he's talking to Kendrick Lamar. It doesn't hit the same when he's like, "Oh, your house is shitty," right?
Right.
Like, because he's not a flexer in that regard. So I feel like the one thing that he could say is that as an artist, he's more popular, and right now that's not the case. So I think that, and the other thing that he could potentially say is, for all of the Drake writers, he makes music specifically as like club hits. He makes top 40 hits that people love to listen to, that people can always listen to over and over again. And his music is not quote unquote boring or whatever. And now with this latest track, Not Like Us, I feel like he also is saying fuck you to that as well. So I don't even know where he can go from here as far as like what else he has in his arsenal. I guess the question I have is about the allegations. I heard you talk to Los Pollos a little bit, and I do agree with you. I think Kendrick has more of a cultural cachet, and therefore like slander against him, if proven true, will hurt more than against Drake, because like everybody knows Drake is corny and people don't give a shit, right? Like he is more, Kendrick Lamar is more like he has designed himself as like as a person that is is flawed as an individual, but like still trying to do good. Whereas like nobody gives a shit about Drake being a good person. Like,
yeah, he doesn't sell himself that way.
Yeah, like the fact that he might have a second child is not going to be as harmful to Drake's career as, or even the like maybe not the pedophilia accusations, but like that he's like weird with minors and weird with teenagers. Like people have known that for some time now, and yet they don't care. So
right,
this man is like, DJ Academics is showing his email right now on stream. This entire time while you guys were talking, I've been watching DJ Academics. I don't even know. He just is all DoorDash, bro. Hold on, I'm gonna share the screen so you can see it too. One second.
While you're doing that, Kendrick is also kind of like, broadly going after his team as well.
Yeah.
Mentioning members of his team for sort of like being in on that as well. And, I have no doubt in my mind. I was telling a friend of mine this like earlier today, like if Drake, and a lot of people have, sort of like cited the fact that like, Drake kind of came out immediately and said, well, actually, I don't have a kid. Which if he does, you would think that would be pretty like easily and quickly disproven. However, like if I'm Drake, okay, and I'm and Drake is a pretty smart guy. If I'm Drake and what happened to me with Pusha T happened, considering the context of what Kendrick said, like, oh, you have a second child who's actually older than the child that we know about.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm Drake, and who knows how many, I'm not going to presume he has a million baby mamas, but if they do exist, and I'm sure he knows that they do, if they do, like I'm going to them immediately and I'm NDAing, I am severance packaging, I am golden parachuting to make sure that no information comes out about this. And if you do leak it to anybody, like obviously, like, you're done. I mean, maybe there could be child support pursuits after that, but given that he officially resides in Canada, I don't know how the hell that could potentially work legally. Either way, I'm immediately going to those people and I'm making sure, using everything in my power, that they don't say anything. Like he'd be foolish not to. So if he does in fact have a kid, that may actually sort of like, play into why he would be as brazen to hop online and say, well, I actually don't have one, because he knows nobody's going to pop out and be like, actually you do. Actually, it's me, it's a child, like, and on top of that,
That was awful. That was an awful way to respond to that, by the way, in my opinion, what Drake did with the Instagram story of like, I'm just laughing, lol, come on. Oh wow,
and personally, like, I don't necessarily think it's the worst move even for the kid at the end of the day if Drake did in fact do that. It's maybe even a little admirable on some level because Adonis, you know, due to the beef with Pusha T, like he really had no choice other than to be in the public eye. Like that kid was literally outed to the world, you know, by the internet in the midst of one of the hottest hip hop beefs, if not the hottest of the 2010s.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And, you know, if Drake did actually do his due diligence and make sure there were better agreements between him and people he did maybe happen to have a child with at some point, it's probably better for their sake that maybe is possibly the case because you don't want your second child doxxed, you know, or your third or your fourth or whatever. But what is I don't see this thing. What is this thing that we're looking at? DJ.
Oh no, this is just not like us. I flipped it because DJ Academics was serving his ads at the top of the hour, serving his fucking ugly ass merch. He was showcasing his merch on his broadcast. So I was like, nope, and I clicked away.
Someone's saying Adonis is going to drop the next My Man freestyle. You know, if Drake gets Adonis on the next track,
he has sung before, right? It's just not.
You know, he could get Adonis on the track and be like, actually, I like my dad.
Yeah,
I think my dad's
that. Oh my god,
you know?
that is something he would do. That is actually, you're not wrong. That's literally something he would do. I think. I feel like there's a very Drake thing to do.
It could be a Drake thing to do.
He texted his mom saying Rick Ross is a racist.
Right.
Like that was unimaginably corny. But yeah, I think you missed it earlier, but I said Kendrick's gonna get the secret kid on this next one. I don't know about that. That would be ruthless. That would be insane.
That would be like fucking Maury. Like that would be an episode of Jerry Springer. That would be Springer levels of insanity.
I guess I don't know. I guess anything can happen at this point. He says he has 10 in the chamber, right? Like 10 total, it seems.
He says he has multiple tracks. And, you know, the thing is like, I think, and I was saying this before I hopped on here, like Kendrick is working at an incredible pace, despite the fact that Drake is supposed to be the one with all the producers, all the collaborators, all the ghostwriters. It's Kendrick who is outwriting and producing more material than Drake is. And I think if Drake came out with a track again, Kendrick would literally just divide and conquer one more time. Even if Drake put out another track on top of that, anticipating Kendrick would slap another card on the table. Kendrick would come back again and divide and conquer twice.
Yeah, there was a couple lines in here that I actually wanted to mention to you that signals that like at least some of this was either written last night or he knew exactly what the lyrics of Drake's last night release was going to be, and he wrote this ahead of time. The homie still doubled down, calling us some slaves. Atlanta was the Mecca, building railroads and trains. That is a direct retaliation to Drake's lines. Drake's actually rather weird and controversial lines that almost doubled down on the statements that Kendrick Lamar was making about Drake having issues with his black identity, where he basically said like, oh, you're rapping like you're freeing slaves, as though, you know, that was, you know, he was just like minimizing Kendrick Lamar's impact in a way that was like, it almost felt like it was written by a white ghostwriter, you know? And he responded to that. So what I want to ask you is like, do you think he knew that line was already in there?
I've talked about this on stream and pretty much predicted like one of the most obvious things that he could attack Kendrick on, one of the potential sore spots. And I think, you know, this battle is all about sort of like popping the other artist's bubble or ruining the public perception of the other artist or ruining, you know, how that person looks in the eyes of their audience. And one of the most precious things to Kendrick's public image is that he's progressive, he's woke, he's aware, he's
Yeah.
an activist, and that's one of the first things you probably want to go after as Drake. It's like he's not as pro-black as he presents himself to be. He's not as
Yeah.
socially minded as he pretends to be. I don't know if
He was
maybe
calling
you're
him a
right
fake
to where
socialist.
wrote
He
it.
was saying you're a hypocrite. You're rich, but you're a socialist, basically. Like,
Yeah, I mean, in a way. And I can't speak necessarily to whether or not he knew the exact line and flipped the exact line over, but like if I'm Kendrick, it's pretty, it's pretty clear. If I can see and comment beforehand on the likelihood that Drake is going to go after that on some level, Kendrick probably sees it coming too.
I know, but like I said, homie still doubled down calling us some slaves is like a direct reference to
Yeah.
something that he like said the night prior. So I feel
Yeah,
like
and this track that Kendrick just came out with, it's not, and this is just my first impressions, I guess. It's not as dense with those double, triple, quadruple entendres as like, Euphoria was. Obviously, it's just trying to be more direct, it's trying to be to the point, it's trying to be really catchy, it's trying to be really snappy. And it's not the worse for it. It appeals in a different way.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's a line that he could probably, given given the writing level that we know he could potentially be at when he wants to be, that's a line that for sure he could probably just like bust out in a minute or two and just have it on the track without even really
and
probably
even bringing in the family matter and the truth of the matter in his last line before the bridge, like implying that this was like I don't know. I guess so you're saying that he wrote it fast, like he wrote it last night and pumped this out.
Yeah, that's not writing that would take him too much time to do.
Okay.
Euphoria, I think took a while because that's a really dense track, and he
Yeah.
had a lot to say, and he was super careful about like, how he structured it and everything. But simultaneously, here's the thing though. I think he was writing Euphoria, and I think he was writing Message to the Grams at the same time. And I don't think he put out Euphoria without having Message to the Grams ready
That makes sense.
whenever Drake would inevitably respond.
I wonder if he has like more in store, like in the same vein of like having double releases or potentially like
I think he does. I think he's ready for a moment's notice whenever Drake drops his next track. And I don't even know if it's even a guarantee that Drake drops another track at this point. But if he actually does, I think Kendrick's ready to respond immediately. And I think Kendrick's even ready to like throw more shit out there, even if Drake says nothing. I think at this point, Kendrick is going to give Drake the Drake treatment that he was giving him with the Tupac thing. Because obviously Drake, made it a point. You can't really hate on what Kendrick is doing right now because it's not like Drake was sitting there quiet for the response.
Yeah,
Kendrick,
but
Kendrick
also
was going to respond at some point. It was just going to happen when it happened. But now, like Drake baited this out of him. Drake asked for this, So I mean, he's kind of getting what he wanted. He better fucking, is lay in the bed that he made.
I mean, the Tupac release was also like it was a classic Drake mistake in my opinion. Instead of letting it sit, like trying to egg him on by also opening up a new avenue of attack by like disrespecting a beloved artist and an entire coast of the country, and maybe even like Tupac fans everywhere around and the family of Tupac, only to like reinforce that same dynamic that he's just like kind of a culture vulture. He bought Tupac's ring and he just like carries it around as though they're just like little things that he has bought. I feel like he's doing to himself what Kendrick is also trying to accomplish here as well, only solidifying Kendrick's position that he is just like he is looking at it from the outside and looking at this as simply a commodity to be consumed and something to just like flash around. Very insecure, in a very insecure way.
Well, he is doing it to himself, and he has been doing it. But the thing is, like, we haven't really seen what we're seeing right now come from Kendrick is something that we haven't been witnessing for a handful of reasons. Like the only people or the only crowd of people that would dare call that out, and have a legitimate grievance with it are people who, are F.D Signifiers age, who are a little bit older than me. And, I mean, we all like F.D Signifier, and obviously, his talents and his perceptions, the fact that he's been as successful on YouTube as he has, I mean, it speaks to that. But, that's he's not the type of guy, and he knows this. He's not the type of guy who Drake's core audience is waiting and hanging on, the edge of their seats to hear his opinion on anything. That's not that audience has no crossover with Drake. So him and people who are older than him and remember the golden age and the hardcore age of hip hop in the 80s and 90s very vividly, and remember the core tenets of the genre that made it what it is today. The kids aren't trying to hear that. The kids don't care. They care about the flash, they care about the flexing, they care about the status, they care about the success. They care about all the things that Drake actually makes his songs about.
Yeah,
Like,
materialistic possessions like that.
Right, exactly. So it's like that's their focus, and that's what they care the most about, and sort of vaguely kind of being in your feels over a girl who ruined your Bahamas trip. Like that's what it's all about. And the thing is, like, younger listeners, even dudes who actually are, younger and maybe more clued in to like Kendrick and more alternative forms of hip hop and more lyrical forms of hip hop, like even a lot of them don't really want to hear some old head railing about Drake. And the thing is, like, a lot of, and beyond that, the only other artists who could potentially take him to task over that are artists that are his contemporaries. And many of them don't really have the wherewithal to do that because, they don't want to risk alienating any potential listeners or any fans by like attacking the big dog, the number one guy in the genre. And a lot of the younger artists out there aren't going to attack Drake because they depend on him to randomly collaborate with them the moment that they have a hot track or a trending moment that he can kind of hop in and make a bigger name for himself off of. We haven't been seeing what Kendrick is doing here because there's not a lot of people who have the capability and the will to actually do it. And now he's actually fucking doing it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's actually going to have any long-term impacts and actually give anyone any pause and actually see like a lot of the things that he's attacking Drake for is like corny. I mean, as much as like I agree with and I understand and I take issue with a lot of the same things that Kendrick is bringing up, vis-a-vis how he operates within the music industry. I agree with a lot of his points. Simultaneously, Drake is kind of more of a symptom than he is the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just talking earlier about the fact that like this man is getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to just hand in whatever album he feels like, regardless of how good it is. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's going to lead to shit music. And that's why we're getting it. That's why we're getting this vapid, meaningless nothing that is just so non-representative of the genre that it's allegedly supposed to be, that he's allegedly supposed to be the flagship artist for. If Drake ends up going away because of this, there just may end up being another Drake that kind of replaces him.
I mean,
it just ends up being a Drake of a different flavor.
Yeah, I don't think this is gonna like play a pivotal role in changing the course of like hip hop. I think for the average viewer, myself included, from the sidelines, we're like I said, people are like invested in the drama. Everybody knows Drake, and everybody knows that there's like a lot of sus shit about Drake. So all of that coming in the, all of that being addressed in this way, I think is big. And ultimately, inevitably, I mean, people will look to a response from him. But even if he doesn't, like, he's just gonna make another fucking album, a couple months down the line, and try to secure as many collaborative projects as possible in that process. Like, he's too big to fail, is what I'm saying. Like, people don't just fall apart like that, unless they just completely stop making music, in which case their fan base will dwindle a little bit, but like there will still be the diehard riders like Nicki Minaj, as we've talked about before. Like there's always going to be people that will ride for you, like Ye and Nicki Minaj, and Drake will be like that as well, no matter what happens. But I don't even think that it will get to that point, because like he's such a massive commercial success overall that I feel like, yeah, he is like a big bank in a sense. It's just
True.
It's just not gonna happen. But overall, I am interested to see where else Kendrick goes with this, and I would like to see more receipts other than just like saying that he's a pedophile over and over again, which I think is very funny.
Yeah. No, I mean, same. I think this is not, regardless of whether or not Drake responds sooner, later, never. I think Kendrick is not done saying what he's saying, and it sort of seems like he's making bolder accusations, naming more names as he's going along. And I think he's kind of breadcrumbing the process. Like, I knew that with Euphoria, he wasn't saying everything that he was going to say. But I didn't think I thought it was going to be Euphoria and then the fucking nuclear option, whatever that is. And I don't even know if there's a nuclear option at this point. I think he's actually I think this process, as of right now, how he's kind of like, slowly kind of stepping it and dragging it out, it's kind of like water torture instead.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of like, leaking another track, leaking another track, leaking another track. And the song appeals in a different way. It has a different bit of information, and everybody's eating up every crumb along the way. And it's just, putting Drake on the defensive.
You got JP fan artists weighing in on the beef. Like, this beef has hit Japanese Twitter. Kendrick probably prepared the track to some extent and invited Drake to Instagram, then ambushed him for an answer. It's hitting Kendrick. Please stop. Drake's life is at 0. It's officially international.
My God.
The beef has gone worldwide. This is awesome.
Right, I'm gonna.
But anyway,
out.
thank you, Anthony, for coming on. This was a phenomenal experience. It got me to listen to music, and I have been nonstop for the past week, as a matter of fact.
We'll convert you yet.
One day I'll be a music listener.